Today, I'm rising to nominate Byron Donalds for Speaker of the House of Representatives. Byron is a dear friend, a solid conservative, but most importantly, a family man. Now, here we are, and for the first time in history, there have been 2 Black Americans placed into the nomination for Speaker of the House.
Nearly everyone gave Texas Congressman-elect Chip Roy a standing ovation after he nominated Representative-elect Byron Donalds of Florida for Speaker of the House. It was the first time, as he mentioned, that 2 black men had been nominated for Speaker, with Democrats also nominating Hakeem Jeffries. Someone didn't care for the history-making moment. Liberal Squad member Cori Bush tweeted, "Despite being black, Donald supports a policy agenda intent on upholding and perpetuating white supremacy. His name being in the mix is not progress, it's pathetic." Donalds fired back. For what it's worth, nobody asked Cori Bush for her opinion on the matter. Before you judge my agenda, let's have a debate over the policies and the outcomes. Until then, don't be a crab in a barrel. Will Cain, Fox and Friends Weekend co-host. What would you say to Cori Bush right now?
I don't know that I could say you are a racist, but I can certainly say that was racist. I don't want to leap to a full indictment of one's character, but I can certainly leap to the indictment of a statement. And there's nothing more clearly racist to me than telling a person that you're not allowed to be an individual, that you must be assigned, in this case, the most precious of things, your individual thoughts, to a category dictated by the color of your skin, Harris. You know, in the civil rights movement, there was a sign, and I love this sign. I think it really encapsulates, I think, the aspiration of the United States of America. And that civil rights sign read, "I am a man." That sign suggests I'm an individual. I'm capable of my own hopes, my own dreams, my own faith, my own thoughts. Cori Bush robs Byron Donalds of that freedom, of that aspiration, by saying, because you've endeavored to indulge your individual thoughts, you're not black. You are not a man. To me, that makes Cori Bush's statement, at the very least, racist.
And I can understand what you're feeling, because that was my reaction when President Biden said something as a candidate that was very similar to Charlemagne the God. If you didn't vote for him, you weren't really black. There must be some litmus test that I'm not aware of on the other side of the aisle that checks how black you are and whether or not it's real. And isn't this also, in your take on it, perhaps a way for Democrats to say that they don't want Republicans to go forward really with diversity? That's their lane, apparently.
Yeah, but it's not diversity. Diversity's become that proxy word. You ever notice when you're having a conversation with someone, Harris, and they mention the concept of diversity, you almost have to ask, what do you mean by diversity? You know, diversity has come to mean, I think, honestly, I think diversity means black. I think that's what it's come to mean, when truly what it means is a group of people of different backgrounds, thoughts, ethnicities, race.
Yes, it should mean that.
And yes, worldviews. Yeah, it means a variety. It doesn't mean a monolith. And that should be the case in a political party, in a country, in a school, and within a race. I don't think that everybody that looks like me should therefore have to think like me, Harris. And if they did, I don't think that we would be able to be called diverse. We'd be called monolithic. So I think that if the Republican Party is the party of people with different thoughts and races, they're the party of diversity.
Yeah. Also said by Biden. Then he had to clean that up. He said blacks were monolithic, Hispanics were not. I mean, this is an issue that really they need to just sit down about for a little while, but until they can figure some stuff out. But in the meanwhile, the history was made whether Cori Bush or others didn't like it. The White House sent more mixed messaging now on COVID just a couple of months after President Biden himself, not a doctor, declared the pandemic was over. The Biden administration quietly extended vaccine entry requirements, though, for travelers, despite evidence that those vaccine passports failed to keep infections down. Most Western nations dropped that requirement months ago. President Biden was seen just yesterday wearing a mask on Marine One, the White House struggling to explain why he would need to do that.
Can you tell us why the president was wearing a mask when he stepped off Marine One?
Oh, well, I don't know. I did not notice that. We all wore our masks on Marine One.
Yeah, he doesn't usually wear a mask, or at least we don't see him wearing one.
Well, I can tell you this. Yesterday he tested negative on an antigen test for COVID-19. But I think just you're wearing a mask, I'm wearing a mask.
Your take.
It's funny how she appeared to be so caught off guard by that question. Look, when I say this, I think it underwhelms the actuality. COVID is clearly political. It's not about your health. It's about politics. And the reason I say that underwhelms is because the word politics suggests, hey, just, partisan infighting or partisan politics. What I mean by that is this state of emergency over COVID has become the source of power. And we knew that during it, Harris. We all knew that during it, from local level to national level. It's the source of power. And they're going to have a very hard time ever giving up that source of power. It's the source of the student loan forgiveness program. And it's even more powerful if it is flippant, arbitrary, if it is, are we in it or are we not? If the populace never knows and it's at the word of the health authorities, Dr. Fauci, or the president, President Biden, they're not going to give it up, and it only leans into their power to have us always wondering, are we in a state of emergency?
And it's absolutely okay for reporters, whether they're wearing a mask or not, whether, the press secretary is or not, to ask about the president. He's had COVID-19 more than once and was really sick at one of those times, took Paxlovid, and then had a rebound case. So it's within the bounds of wanting to know, why is the president suddenly masking up? All right, Will Cain, great to see you. Thank you. Happy New Year. Happy Friday Eve. My first Thursday of the year.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.